Hello and welcome to my Classroom Impact Initiative. My name is Francis Ventura. I have the pleasure of teaching at Cornwall High School. So this is just to give you a quick overview of what we will be discussing today. So just before I begin with Cornwall High School, just going to give you a quick compare and contrast to Alfred Deakin High School, which is another high school about a 15-minute drive, so just up the road. As we see here, 59% or an absolute majority of its students are in the top quarter. This is based off the CII data, with only 4% of its students in the bottom quarter. Looking at the NAPLAN data below, we see that its students are either at or above the Australian standards, so very clear results here. Comparing that directly with Cornwall High School, we see the complete opposite. So only 8% of students in the top quarter based off the CII data, with an absolute majority of students falling in the bottom and lower middle quarters. Similarly with the NAPLAN data, we see a sea of red, which basically means students are substantially below the literacy and numeracy results of the Australian standard. Just so basically what this means is it gives us an idea of how students have it tough pretty much from the minute they walk in the door at Cornwall High. This needs to be taken into consideration when developing pedagogical strategies. It also demonstrates proficiency towards standard 5.4. Just quickly with the methodology, expanded further in the final report, but looking at both qualitative and quantitative methods. So onto the research question, and basically what I found was students were demonstrating the ability to think critically and to come up with high-level responses during discussions. So we'd have a class discussion, I'd go around and hear table discussions, I'd also question students, and they were able to think critically. Where this became a challenge was written communication. As we're going to see in some examples, this is particularly the case for developing level students. So they're the ones that are going to be disproportionately impacted by this. So what I've been focusing on, will continue to focus on, is how to enhance the written communication skills of these developing level students so that they can better demonstrate their higher order thinking skills. So what this involves is three main strategies. So basically better feedback, specific and timely provision for each student. And this is going to be based off both learning targets, which I will show you, and also feedback in class, as well as very specific feedback on the Google Classroom. So for higher end and gifted and talented students, this would be detailed feedback about how they can get even higher. For developing level, this will be, I guess, more bite-sized, focused on small, achievable, step-by-step goals. Feedback from last semester was that with a different set of learning intentions, success criteria, and activities every class, students felt rushed, particularly if they missed a series of classes. They'd be stressed and overwhelmed having to catch up, which is obviously not conducive to their learning or well-being. So as a result, I've allowed more class time to complete tasks. Also means assignments are not features of my classes this semester. Instead, students focus on their classwork, which they receive feedback on, are able to improve on throughout the semester, and then receive a mark at the end of the semester, which is more indicative of their, their academic abilities, rather than just an assignment that they might have had to rush. Thirdly, building on the last point, rather than those brief tasks, to enable me to extend students and focus more on these on those higher order thinking skills. Learning activities will range from about 2 lessons to a couple of weeks. That enables me to move around the room, work with groups at a time as well as individually, and really focus on that more student-centered approach rather than just having to spend significant time doing instruction period, a do now instruction, a hook, all that type of stuff at the start of a lesson. We can just simply continue on, helps me to better track. So as we see here, this is a piece of feedback given to a high-level student, gifted and talented student, and it really does focus on quite a bit of detail here, focusing on how they can get, even higher level critical thinking skills. As we see here, the the level of English is already quite high. Moving on to a mid-level student, the way of feedback I gave this, we see the initial response, which was just one sentence, which is correct. It's accurate, the English is fine, but obviously very brief, lacking depth. So in the part that's highlighted yellow, you'll see there I've modelled what a more considered, in-depth and high-level response would look like. So basically something that they now have, which they can, follow next time. Just another example here. This is the response of the progress made. This is the same student at the start. And we can see here now that this student is really demonstrating growth in their level of writing, including different perspectives, including actual examples from sources, and all of that type of thing. So this is obviously going to be covered a lot more depth in the final report. So I would say, moving right along, examples of the extended tasks. So firstly, we see here everything is nicely and neatly structured in the Google Classroom. And this particular task here, there are videos, there are sources, lots of resources provided. So with this earthquakes task, we see here it moves from numeracy skills right through to these different examples here, analysing a picture, looking at the various impacts as well as an extension. With the updating Sydney task, here is the level of critical analysis. Students basically considering something on a scale of 1 to 10, and then moving on and analysing different graphs and data here. I've followed the what, so what, now what model, which basically means that students build on their so not just stating what a problem is, what the impact of that is, and then coming up with a solution to that. And then, of course, there's an extension task. Finally, the learning targets, and this is the method through which feedback is provided. So based off all the different markers on the curriculum, as well as evidence and feedback, which I then provide to students, which they can then improve on. And that's the learning targets. So thank you very much for listening. I would invite you to visit my portfolio where I've gone into detail for all of the AITSL standards. And thank you very much again for listening to my presentation. I wish you a pleasant day.